Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to say thanks to everyone for taking the time out this morning to join us, or this afternoon or evening, depending on where you're connecting from. We've got a lot of content to cover today, so we're very excited to get this session going. My name is Quentin Alsbury. I'm a product manager on the QuickSight team, and with me today is Jesse Gebhardt, who's a business development manager for QuickSight, who's going to be taking us through most of the content and the demonstration on the new features that are coming out or already out with some preview look into some very exciting features that are on their way. Just before we get started, a couple of housekeeping notes. As you know, we've been trying to do these sessions on a monthly basis. Going forward from this month, we're going to start doing them every 2 months. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that enough time passes that we've got enough content and new features to really fill the hour and make it worthwhile for everyone's time to join in, and that we've got enough to show and to walk you guys through so you can then go on and test that out in the product. We've had some scheduling conflicts in the past that have led to some cancellations and moving things around, and we think if we spread these out to every 2 months, that'll be the right cadence going forward for that. So with that in mind, I just want to make sure that you go ahead and delete the invites on your calendar for the September version of this webinar, and the next one will be on October 17th at 9:30 in the morning Pacific time. So with that, I'm very excited to get going, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jesse.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Quentin. I'm very excited to be able to walk you through all the new features that we launched in July and up through mid-August here. So we've got a number of things that we're going to cover today. The first about 5 or so here, I'm gonna demonstrate for you, and then the last few on this list we'll be able to discuss towards the end. But in terms of the ones that we're going to walk through, first is the ability to choose custom colors by entering the HTML hex code for any visualizations that you're building in QuickSight. So the idea here is that if you want that exact color that matches your organization's brand, or if there's specific color palettes out there that you really like using and you can get the hex codes for them, you can reuse those in QuickSight and get those very, very precise color assignments. So this is a very commonly asked feature for a long time, and we're happy that you can brand QuickSight and give it the custom colors that you'd like now. The second being a new visualization type. So we've got a word cloud that has been launched. So word clouds are great for if you're looking at things like keywords, or if you're doing any kind of text analytics and doing maybe like an entity extraction from a piece of text to say what were they talking about there, and then being able to look at the popularity of each word. This is a great visualization to be able to show that kind of stuff. We launched a couple new regions towards the end of last month. So for our customers in EMEA, they should be excited that we've launched the Frankfurt region as well as a London region. So previously, Dublin was the main region that we had in Europe. Now we've got 2 other choices for you guys over there as well. So the next 2 are entering a preview state. So it's kind of like our version of a beta. But we're very, very close on these, so I'm excited that I'll be able to show them to you today. So conditional formatting and printing, 2 extremely popular customer asks over the last year to 2 years. So I'm very excited to be able to show these to you guys today, and they should be out very, very soon, shortly after we finish the webinar, at least in a preview state. So you guys can contact us and we can get you whitelisted for these previews. And then favorites is the ability to organize the dashboards that you commonly use, or even analyses that you commonly edit, and being able to just star things as a favorite so they're much easier for you to find. So this is kind of the first feature in a set of features that we're going to be launching throughout the end of the year around organization of content. Things like folders and stuff will be coming, and then favorites is kind of the first foray into that. So the last three, I'll pause on those just for a few minutes here. We'll jump over to the demos, and then we'll come back and discuss those last three items on the list here as well. All right, so first one or two, let's do custom colors and the word cloud visualization. All right, so here I'm going to start a brand new analysis. I'm going to use a data set that I had imported earlier today. And we'll start out here with, let's just start with something simple, like I've got a bar chart of my customer activity and revenue. So sales by customer, basically. And previously we had this set of, I don't know, there's about 30 some odd colors in here, 40 colors or so. And these were kind of the only colors that you got. So you could pick from any of those ones that we provided to you, but you were kind of stuck with the ones that we had in our palettes. So the part that's new here is where you see it says custom color. So now you can enter whatever hex code you want, and you can get any color under the rainbow and use that in your QuickSight visuals now. So for instance, I went and looked up what the Amazon orange hex code was. So I was able to find that and just pasted it in here. And as I click apply, um, I applied it just to that one bar, but actually probably what I had meant to do was change the entire chart color to that. So this kind of brings up a second part of this feature, which is it keeps your recently used custom colors as well. So instead of having to go enter that custom color again, it does have my recent orange that I'd put in there. So just makes it a lot easier to go find and reuse the colors that you've entered there. So the history of where it keeps this will work across different analyses, across sessions. So it's tied to your user. So anytime you enter a custom color, it'll be stored with your username indefinitely. So nice that these stick around for a while here. Another way you can kind of think about these is if there's other palettes out there that you find that are very attractive to you. Like I was scrolling through some of these and I thought I kind of like this beach theme, or maybe like one of the specific blues in the sea foam is one that I really like. So like say this middle blue is one that I wanted to use. So again, I'm going to copy that hex code. Let's go. Add another guy here. And instead of this blue, again, I want to change and add my custom color here. Get that beautiful teal I was looking at, and voila. So that's the idea of custom colors. They work for any kind of data points within the visualizations. We do have a whole slew of other customizations that we're working on through something called a theming API that we will be putting into preview here in the next month or so, next month or two. So I'd say by the next webinar where we talk to you guys, we'll have a whole number of other customizations that you'll be able to do for your dashboards and analyses as well. So first one here is the custom colors. All right, so the next feature that I wanted to show you is the new visualization type. So here I'm going to go add another visual, and you'll see that there's a new type here, which is the word cloud. So I'm going to select that. And for the word cloud, it's pretty simple. I just give it two fields. One is the actual pieces of text that I want to display out there. So it could be cities, it could be customers. So right now it is sizing them by the number of records that it found for that particular city if you don't add a field onto size. But if you add something else onto that size field well, then that's what's going to determine the overall or relative size of that particular word that we put out there. So we can see that, obviously New York, LA, San Francisco, Philly, Seattle, these are the ones that kind of pop out to us. So it's just a different way of being able to visualize that. Very common, like if you're doing social media analytics, if you're looking for, top authors of tweets, or if you're looking at hashtags that are most popular, any of that kind of stuff where you're looking at keywords or social media, very common way of doing it. So there's some additional formatting options in here specifically for the word cloud. So these you see in here allow vertical words. So if I check that one off, I'll get a mix of horizontal and vertical. Emphasize scale. This basically is going to, if you think of them as like a scale of smallest to largest, this is going to make those a lot closer to one another versus when I have that checked, my smaller ones are indeed a lot smaller than my bigger ones. I personally like to leave emphasize scale on, but if you find that you want to make the other ones that are the smaller outliers still readable, then you can turn that off. The fluid layout, so this, if you see, notice like where the words are placed. If I resize this, or if I were to change my browser up a little, it's actually still keeping it. Let's say if I turn off allow vertical words, that it's going to keep the exact same layout that we have in here. If I turn this off, um, it is kind of fixed in terms of like an aspect ratio point of view. So, you know, I can make that a bit smaller and it's keeping that same general shape when it's generally going to be more like a circular shape. And even as I make it bigger, it's keeping that exact same shape. Whereas if I turn on fluid layout, it's going to fill that whole space as best as it can. You can also force everything to be lowercase. This is quite common for word clouds. You don't have to do it, but there's a quick option to quickly turn everything lowercase. And a couple of last things here. So the padding you can control. Padding is how much space in between words we try to leave. So none would be extremely tight, small, medium, large. So you can kind of see how that affects the spacing and the visual in there. So max string length. So if you have really long phrases and then maybe one is taking up way too much room or something like that, you can choose to cut it. Maybe I wanted to cut this at 10. So then you see that you get this kind of dot, dot, dot behavior. I guess depends on what you're trying to plot out here. You can limit it. The default's up at 40. I think you can increase it past that as well. But an option for you there. I don't think we'll use it terribly often, but that's an option there for you. And then you can change if you wanted to do like a top X, like say I wanted to only show the top 20 out here. You can control that as well. Again, default's 100. All right, so that is the new visual type called the word cloud. Last thing there is you can apply those same custom colors. Like say Seattle, I wanna put that Amazon orange on Seattle. Oops, I changed the whole chart. Let's reset that. And I want to go Seattle should be orange, and then the rest of the chart should be a different color. So if like there's specific things you're trying to highlight there, you can change colors specifically on certain words if you'd like to. All right, so new regions. This one's going to be fairly quick to demo, um, but very powerful in terms of a global expansion of your users. So essentially, when you sign up for QuickSight, as well as after you already have an account and you're just switching regions, you'll see these two extra ones here, which are Frankfurt and Frankfurt and London. So we had Ireland previously. So if I switch over to Frankfurt, I've got a different set of spice capacity over there. I might have, um, for things like GDPR, and I want to keep my data within the EU. Then this is where all your content is going to be stored, and it won't leave that region at all. So I don't have any content built out here in Frankfurt yet, but there you've got choices for a couple of new regions in there. All right, so the one that I am most excited about coming up is this conditional formatting feature in here. So let's take a little bit closer look at this one. So conditional formatting is the ability, first off, it's going to be on tables, and pivot tables are the first two that we're launching this on. And then you can imagine that we're going to be adding this to other visualization types as we move forward as well. But by far the two most common types of visuals that you'd like to do this on are tables and pivot tables. So let's start a brand new analysis here. I'm going to tell QuickSight I want to go make a table out here. Let's do a pivot table first. So on my pivot table, let's do states and profitability. And let's actually add a couple of different metrics out here. So say in this table down below, I would like to color anything with a positive number on profit. Maybe I want to color that green, and everything else I'd like to color red. So we hadn't had a way of doing this before, but now you'll see under this menu for the visual that I've got a new option here for conditional formatting. So the way this works is you can first select the column you want to apply the formatting to. So I have a few set of metrics out here, and I'm going to choose the first one, which will be my profit. And then you can choose how you'd like to apply the formatting. So you've got a few options. One would be to change the background color of that cell, or change the actual text font color. And third is that you can add an icon on there for things like, a KPI, up or down, good or bad. So we've got some options there for you to add icons as well. So we'll revisit that one, but first let's just do on profit, let's start with a background color. So first choice up here is you can either do solid colors. So like I would choose individual colors of after this, I want you to break and go to a certain, after this threshold, change it to a different color. And you can set as many different steps to that as you'd like. Or you can do a gradient, which there on a gradient, you're going to choose the color you want to represent the low end and what you want to represent the high end. Hit apply. I've got some outliers here, so I get some nice browns in the middle. So instead, maybe let's change it to the solid color, and then for solid colors, you choose where the thresholds are going to be. So I could say here I'm going to set a condition, and I'm going to say when it is less than 0, that's when I want it to be red. And then everything else, it just remains with the default background colors. And then you can add additional conditions. So I'm going to add another one here. And I'm going to say if it's greater than or equal to oops, 0, that's when I want to turn it green. Pretty cool. So this has been, again, asked for a long time. Very happy that it's in there. I hope you guys are as well. And this is just the beginning of conditional formatting. So this is just a simple one, like turn it red or green if it's greater than or less than 0. So I'm going to close this one out. So just so you see the way it's organized here is I've got my conditions for this column, and then I can have multiple sets of conditions on it too. So let's try something else. Um, let's let's actually do this. Let's go create a calculation, and looking at my sales number here, what I'd like to know is, are my sales up from last year or are they down? So I'm first going to make a calculated field that's going to represent that year over year. And the formula in here is going to I'm going to use a couple tricks where first I'm going to say I want to extract the year from my date. And I'm going to say, and then we're going to wrap these kind of in some if statements to build some filters, separate filters into either your numerator and denominator. And here I'm just going to do a subtraction between the two numbers. But I'm going to say if the year was 2018, then give me the sales number. Else just give me 0. So this is kind of give me a new metric that's pre-filtered just to the year of 2018. And then for other rows of data, it just doesn't have anything. So I could just save this and say this is my 2018, but I'm gonna add both in here. So I'm gonna say both years, I mean. So I'm gonna say let's sum up 2018, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing for 2017, and then I'm subtracting the two. I've got a little minus symbol here. So pre-filtered 2018 number minus pre-filtered 2017 number is kind of what I'm getting here. All right, so I've got a new number out here. And while I might want to show it out there in the visual, I don't necessarily have to. I can put this visually in there by using the icons and the KPIs that come with the conditional formatting. So let's try that. So let's go back into conditional formatting. I'm going to go back to my sales number, and this time I'm going to use the add icon option. And on any of these, whether it's icon background color or text color, well, oftentimes you're going to format the field based on the same field. So like the conditions are going to be based on the same field that you're actually displaying out there. It doesn't have to be. So I could say for the sales column, I actually want to format this based on my year over year. So I can choose a different field out here. I already have the aggregation built into that one, right? I have my sum of one field, sum of 2018 minus sum of 2017 already in there. And here I'm going to say if it's greater than or equal to 0, I want to put a little arrow perhaps and say that it's up year over year. So now you can see, remember I don't have, let's go just put that year over year out there just so we can confirm things here. So basically, whenever this number is positive, where we've got a positive growth year over year, that's when I'm seeing this arrow. And where things were down, I don't see the arrow. So I think that's pretty cool that you can add different conditions and icons and stuff like that for fields that you're not even using, or a different field than you're actually trying to display the formatting on. So I see that being very, very useful. So let's just go back in there. So here I've got my profit conditions, I've got my sales conditions. Here I can come and edit them. So just to show you those icons once again. In the first iteration, we've got just very commonly used stuff. I know you're probably going to ask, can I do custom icons in here? Not yet, but you know, you can imagine that we might be able to allow for that sometime in the future. You got a couple like emoji type options here. So if it was up year over year, I'd actually want to change that to a little smiley face or whatnot. You get some other options here as well. Excuse me. And then if you also apply another condition onto it, so say I want to apply a text color to that too. So let's say if sales was greater than or equal to, let's just pick a number, looks like 50,000 is something reasonable. Then let's go reuse that Amazon orange that we were using before. So notice it applies both to the text and to the icon that you chose to put out there as well. And also notice that you can use your custom colors in conditional formatting too. So while we were using them in like our bar charts and our line charts before, I can also use them for my conditional formatting assignments too. All right, so then the last thing here is just to show you, we were doing this on, I think we did a pivot table first. Um, I didn't actually add anything to my column, so it looks more kind of like a table to me, but if I added segment out here on my pivot table, and I can either pivot my values to be rows or columns, you'll see that this works even if you have both fields on the rows and the columns. And then this is just choosing where the metrics gets displayed, either as rows or columns. But point being that it actually is repeating that for each one of my segments here. So it works really well in the pivot table. Just to show you real quick, on the table visualization works the same way. So say on this one, I was looking at individual transactions. So this is more like a raw view at the data where I'm down at a transaction level. And then similarly, I can apply formatting. You get one extra option here on the tables, which is you can color rows as well. So like if there was a very particular row that I was trying to call out, I can highlight it in that way. So I could say I want to add a background color where, and then you can actually choose fields from any column you have in the data set. It doesn't have to just be fields that you're using out here. Just for kind of illustration purposes, I'm going to use one of the ones that we have on here. So just for some reason, let's say that we wanted to call out November 11th as as a particular day. Maybe we had a big promotion that we ran on that day, or something along those lines. So here we go, November 11th it was. And I want to color November 11th with a blue background color. There we go. So I could maybe there were additional dates I wanted to call out as well, or even based on the different fields, doesn't have to be the date field. Like there were some other reasons where I wanted to call out a particular order number and turn that one yellow. So you have ways to color individual rows of data out here as well. So something separate that you have on the tables that you don't have on the pivot tables. But I can see this being very useful for this kind of traditional reporting use cases. And then your same stuff of like if I wanted to color quantity and say like if they ordered over 10 things, and then if you have additional, say you had like 10 steps, then here is where you'd be able to move them up or down. So they're kind of applied in the order of how you add them here. So we're going to check the first condition, then as you add another one, you see it says else here. So it goes in the order of how you set them. So we check this condition, we apply that color, And then if it doesn't meet that, then we check the second condition. But if you wanted to move one up or down, so change the order of these, you can do so using these little um, few dots here. All right, so that is conditional formatting. I am very excited about it. I hope you guys are as well. Just to remind you, this is not out quite yet, but it's very close. So we're going to be entering a preview beta for this in the next week or so. And if you want to try this out, you can contact us after the webinar and we'll make sure that we can whitelist you guys for this. So this will be out very, very shortly. All right, so the second one that we have very close and in kind of a preview state is the ability to print. So this is both printing actually out to paper as well as printing to PDF. So another very common ask that we've had amongst the customer base. So now you can see I have a brand new button up here in the upper right, which allows me to print this out. So you've got options here for different standard paper sizes. So A3 through 5 for is common in Europe. We've got the US sizes, some Japanese sizes as well here. Say I want to go US letter size, and then I can choose, do I want to do it landscape or portrait kind of layout? And then you'll notice I have this preview button. So this is just giving me kind of like a print preview. This is going to launch just your normal like print dialog where I could say I want to save it as a PDF or I actually want to go out to paper. Um, if I wanted to change that instead to landscape, that's what my configure button up here is going to do. So on a landscape, I don't actually have enough room to show both visualizations on the same page. So here it's showing me where my page break is going to be. So that in like this preview window, you also get this the page breaks shown there. And if you wanted to say, I want to try and have that first one fill the page a little more, or I want to be able to try and organize it so this one is doesn't break on that page, or maybe I want to choose a different uh, size, right? You can configure that kind of stuff here. All right, so that's the printing capability. Again, that's going to launch at the same time as the conditional formatting, and both will be in preview very shortly. We can turn those guys on for you if you are interested in testing them out. So the last one we're going to do a demo of is favorites. So let's go back to my home page here. So on the top, you'll notice you have a new section for favorites. And the way that you add something to this favorite section, like you can see mine's empty over here right now. And this is a new account that I had set up, so I don't have hundreds or thousands of analyses and dashboards in here. But you can imagine as you start to use QuickSight more heavily, that you have lots and lots of analyses in here. And while there are some sorting options where I could sort it like when it was last updated, or I could sort it alphabetically, or what I wind up doing is I actually use um, the search quite a bit. So just a quick plug out there for using the search as a way to find stuff as well. But on top of all that, we know that there's always a common set of dashboards that you either look at as a viewer or a common set of dashboards that you're the owner of and you're making edits to them. So being able to star something, so say I want to go take my conditional formatting and my word cloud analyses and mark them as favorites just by clicking on that little star, then they'll be added over here to my list of favorites as well. So favorites are going to work on analyses and dashboards. You don't yet have the ability to mark a data set as a favorite, but that will becoming shortly after these first kind of the first iteration of this feature goes GA. So as you browse away and you can leave and come back as many times as you like, and you'll continue to have these favorites here. And if you want to remove something, you just kind of unstar it. And then if I were to reload my browser, I would see that this one's gone. Or if I just go back and come back to favorites, you'd see that that one would be gone as well. So as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of like the first feature we have around content organization. A nice, quick, and easy one, which is the ability to favorite them and save them that way. And then other things like folders and other stuff like that will be coming throughout the end of this year as well. All right, so that concludes the items that I wanted to demo for you today. Now let's just discuss these couple of last items that we have in here. So anomaly detection improvements. The improvements that we've made in this release is around the number of data points needed to train the ML model for us to be able to find an anomaly for you. So previously it was around 40 points. So 40 underlying data points is what you needed to be able to train the model enough for us to determine if something was in or out of bounds and if we should notify you that there was an anomaly there. So that's been reduced to 14 data points instead of 40. So we're just able to help you find anomalies on smaller data sets or smaller slices of data. It's not like you're gonna have a 14 row data set, but say you're finding anomalies um, on revenue by all of your different customers and by every product that they bought. You know, those individual slices and combinations of categories that we're scanning for anomalies. It's just that it's a reduced number of data points in each one of those slices. So I only need up to 14 data points to be able to find an anomaly in that combination of fields that I'm looking for. So it just extends that and becomes a lot more powerful for you. So that's anomaly detection. Only need 14 points. Calculated field improvement. So if you're using Spice, we've added all of the string functions that you could use in the data prep. They are also available to you in the analysis when you're using Spice. Excuse me. So things like string functions like left, right, replace, substring, concatenate, right? So all those things where you're doing manipulations of text and of strings are available to you as you build a calculated fields in the analysis as well. So those recently have been added. And also the power operator works now. So if you're using that up caret symbol, at least on my keyboard, it's above the number 6. But when you have the caret to represent, you know, going to the second power, third power kind of thing, that also works in calculated fields now too. And the last is around the embedding use case. So we've added just some more flexibility in terms of the types of authentication that you can use when you're doing embedding. So like even internally at Amazon, we have a QuickSight account that's available to everybody in Amazon. And we use Active Directory as our authentication type for our account. But previously, you couldn't use embedding if you were using Active Directory authentication. You had to be doing federated single sign-on, which if you're building your own application and you're trying to embed analytics in your application, usually like your customers, you wouldn't have your customers in an Active Directory, but for internal facing use cases, you know, using Active Directory is quite common. So this enables that scenario of where I'm using AD, I can do embedding as well. And it also allows for, say, say you're just using QuickSight usernames and passwords, or you're managing your usernames and passwords in your application itself. While you could set up the IAM federated single sign-on with QuickSight and get your embedding working that way, it just kind of simplifies that process for you. So now, if you want to embed and you're managing your own um, user credentials, and once you've authenticated someone into your application, you can just make a direct call to QuickSight and say, hey, I've got this username. Do you also have them as a user in QuickSight? If we do, then we're going to generate that unique token for you, that URL, return it back to you so that user can redeem it, and that embedded visual will load for them. So it just kind of cuts out a couple steps of having to talk to like the AWS single sign-on server, assume an IAM role. You can kind of just call directly to QuickSight. If the user exists in the QuickSight, we'll return it. If the user doesn't exist, we obviously won't show it to them. So it just simplifies things pretty drastically, depending on the authentication type that you guys are using in your applications that you're trying to embed into. So just open up more doors and more possibilities for embedding. So last thing I'll leave you with, one quick plug on embedding, is that we had ran another recent webinar about 2 weeks back, maybe, specifically on the embedding use case. So if that is something, excuse me, if embedding is a big part of what you guys are looking at using QuickSight for, if you go to our website and go to this embedded analytics section, if you click on this Attend the Tech Talk, you'll find the recording and also the slide deck here as well. So you can play the recording from it. It goes very in depth in terms of the technical how-to of how to get these visualizations embedded into your application. Joe's also talks about some new APIs that we're going to be launching that are going to be available in preview. I think they're available in preview right now, if not like next week. So he discussed a bunch of those and how you can sign up to be included on the API previews. But just a quick plug for that. If you had missed this, um, you can find it again on the website if you go to the Embedded Analytics tab and go very deeply into how that's done. All right, so I think that's it from me, Quentin. I'm going to pass it back over to you to wrap things up, give any more quick plugs, and then we'll stick around and answer any remaining questions that we haven't gotten to yet. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Awesome. Thanks, Jesse. Great presentation as always. I want to say thanks to everybody for joining us. Look forward to our next session. Remember, that will be in October, on October 17th at 9:30 in the morning Pacific time. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot of new features and functionality. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline as we get into the fall here, coming up on reInvent. So very much looking forward to the next time we get a chat in October. Hope you can join us again then. And in the meantime, good luck with QuickSight. Make sure go ahead and email us if you have any questions, and we'll be posting a recording of this webinar online and sending it out to everyone as well. Thanks again for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again.